Welcome back to Boneworks. If you didn't already know, in my last review I said that I was only covering the basics and that I would make more, so here's part 2 of that review. I was planning on using this video to mainly cover the criticisms that I had, but there is one thing that I forgot to cover in the last one, so I'm going to do that first. So this section is very closely related to the physics portion of my last video, as all the puzzles are based on Boneworks' physics engine. One of the coolest things in my opinion about the puzzles is that they're so well done that the solutions feel like you're brute forcing it and doing it wrong. It sounds like a bad thing, but it's actually really cool to finally figure out how to get past a puzzle in a way that feels like you cheated it, only to find out that that's how you're supposed to do it. Now maybe I shouldn't say supposed to, as one of the biggest ideas behind all of the puzzles in this game is that there's always more than one solution to everything.
Oh god, they're coming through! They're coming through!
That's the funny thing. I mean, we want to make sure that there's no wrong answer, right? It's just like too much as games have gotten more art heavy and more scripted. Too much of it has always been like you're just sort of experiencing it. Like you watch everybody's gameplay and everyone looks the same.
Exactly.
What VR can enable is this consistent set of rules, right? Where it's like you got your hands, you can grab things, you can move things.
Or I could like lift boxes and stack it and jump.
Climb over there. Yeah, there's no wrong answer. So every level
so
we're
cool.
designing is like this is like, okay, whatever you'd solve, that's right.
This is an excellent way to deal with the fact that putting players in a puzzle situation in a VR environment that behaves like the real world will yield a huge range of ways to approach the problems, and the perfect solution to that would be making it so that there's no one right way to solve them. I think this is brilliant, and Stress Level 0 accomplishes this perfectly. Okay, so this is where we get to some of my criticisms. Now, don't get me wrong, I still love this game, and the majority of the story is actually pretty good. The game is very meta and seems to almost wink at you at times. Every once in a while, you'll come across a monitor and someone from the real world will be talking to you, as in an actually filmed performance. Most of the time, it's Mike Diva. And like I said, the story is fine for most of the game, up until the very end. At the very end, this game takes a very sharp turn into absurdity, and normally this would be fine, but it kind of comes out of nowhere. I'm not going to spoil anything since it doesn't happen until the very end, but anyone who's played this game knows what I'm talking about. Now, I sort of covered this in my section about guns in the last video, but I'm more referring to how the physical buttons function on the controllers. This is one of the first few VR games programmed to function with the new Valve Knuckles controllers, and seeing gameplay with them seems awesome. But the only problem here is that I'm still using Vive controllers, as well as most of the people who are playing VR at the moment. And it's very apparent that most of the playtesting was done with the Knuckles controller, since Stress Level 0 was given a pair early for game development. The biggest annoyance by far is that with Vive controllers you have to constantly hold down the grip buttons when holding any object other than a gun. This doesn't sound too bad, but anyone who's used a Vive knows that the grip buttons leave much to be desired. They have a relatively high actuation force and are uncomfortable to hold on to for long periods of time. Now, picking things up and moving them around isn't a problem, but it does make using melee weapons pretty much entirely out of the question, which sucks because melee is one of the most extensive categories of weapons in the game. This is in stark contrast to the Knuckles controllers, where simply holding onto the controller would translate to your in-game character closing its grip as it senses your actual fingers. From what I've read in reviews on Steam, as well as my own personal opinion, this is one of the biggest issues with Boneworks at the moment. On release, the game did not feature mid-game checkpoints, meaning that dying from an enemy would require you to start completely over from the beginning. This on its own wouldn't be too bad, as the game has a similar death mechanic to Gorn, meaning that you have a few seconds after you start dying to kill an enemy, which brings you back to life. This makes it pretty hard to die in a fight, but the real problem arises when you realize that there's no manual save, so closing the game in the middle of a level and coming back to finish it later isn't an option. Each level has to be completed all the way through in order to save progress. This is a major issue for anyone who can't play VR for extended periods without getting sick, or anyone that just doesn't have that kind of time to dedicate to the game. As unfortunate as this is, the Stress Level 0 team are making this problem one of their priorities for the upcoming update, so hopefully this shouldn't be a problem for much longer. Again, I don't want this video to be taken the wrong way, but I did have some criticisms I wanted to voice, which I still love this game, but you're allowed to criticize things you love. Thank you for watching, please consider subscribing if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next one.